Hello, everyone. I'm James, and what if I told you that behind one of the most extravagant weddings of the year, where a 25-year-old woman married a reclusive billionaire, 5 decades older, lay a dark mystery no one saw coming? That within weeks, her entire family would vanish, without a trace. This is not just a story about love, it's about obsession control and betrayal that escalated to something far more sinister. Rachel Monroe was the kind of girl everyone in Mason Hollow noticed, a bright, ambitious nursing student with a warm smile and sharp wit. She lived with her parents and younger brother in a modest home in the suburbs of Charleston. Her life was simple, filled with library shifts, campus lectures, and dinners with her family. Until he walked in. Howard Bellamy, a 70-year-old tech billionaire whose name had all but disappeared from headlines since he sold his company in the early 2000s. He lived in a massive estate outside town, a gated mansion shrouded in myths, ivy, and silence. People said he didn't go out much. Some whispered that his last wife disappeared. Others claimed he paid off the media. No one knew for sure. What they did know was this: he was rich. Incredibly rich. So when Rachel showed up one day wearing a diamond ring the size of a grape and introduced Howard as her fiancé, jaws dropped. Oh my God, is she serious? She's 25. He's 70. What's she thinking? The town buzzed like a broken radio. Her friends were shocked. Her professors warned her. Her family. They were devastated. Rachel's parents, Thomas and Linda Monroe, made it clear they would never approve the marriage. They feared she was being manipulated or worse. But Rachel didn't care. She claimed it was love, pure and simple. Howard had swept her off her feet, charming, attentive, even funny. He promised her the world, and she was ready to take it. The wedding was a lavish affair at Howard's estate. White roses lined the aisle. A string quartet played Vivaldi, and high-profile guests in black tie suits clinked champagne glasses. But there was something off. The bride's family wasn't there. Not a single Monroe attended. Not her mother, not her father, not even her little brother. When guests asked, Rachel simply smiled and said they couldn't make it, but those close to her knew the truth: she had cut them off. "Oh, God! Rachel, what have you done?" her best friend Lily whispered that night. Just days after the ceremony, Rachel disappeared from social media. Her phone went to voicemail, and no one heard from her family again. A week turned into 2, then a month. And then finally the call came in. "I think something's happened to the Monroes," a neighbor told 911. "I haven't seen them in weeks. Their cars are still in the driveway, the mail is piling up, and last night, I swear I heard someone screaming." That call was only the beginning. By the time police arrived at the Monroe family home, the house looked frozen in time. The grass was overgrown. Newspapers sat untouched on the porch, yellowing in the sun. And when they knocked on the front door, no one answered. They tried calling Thomas and Linda, straight to voicemail. They tried Rachel. Nothing. Even her younger brother Caleb hadn't been active on social media for weeks. Inside the house, it was like someone had hit pause. Dinner plates were still in the sink. Laundry was half folded on the couch. The TV remote was left on the floor as if someone had been interrupted mid-show. But there were no signs of forced entry, no blood, no struggle. Nothing. "It's like they evaporated," one officer said. But that didn't stop the whispers. Word spread quickly around Mason Hollow. People speculated everything from a family suicide pact to a secret relocation. Some thought Rachel had run away with Howard and cut ties completely. Others believed Howard had done something terrible, and Rachel might be next. But it was the neighbors who sounded the alarm loudest. Especially one woman, Mrs. Edith Palmer. She lived across the street, an older widow with binoculars and a deep mistrust of everyone. "I may be old, but I'm not blind," she told officers. "I saw Rachel's father walking out of the house that night, but he didn't look right. He looked terrified." And then she paused. There was that scream. "What scream?" the officer asked. It came from the back, around midnight, blood-curdling, and then silence. Mrs. Palmer wasn't the only one. Another neighbor confirmed hearing something that night, a loud bang, like a door slamming or maybe a gunshot. But no one had thought to call the police. In a quiet neighborhood like theirs, people usually minded their own business. Until now. The investigation expanded rapidly. Police searched the Monroe home thoroughly. They brought in dogs, drones, forensic teams. They even drained the small pond in the backyard, hoping to find clues. Still nothing. But one piece of evidence gave investigators pause. Thomas Monroe's cell phone had last pinged near Lake Hemsworth, 27 miles from home, on the same night the family was last seen. That lake was dense, remote, surrounded by pine woods, and notoriously deep. So the search shifted. Divers were deployed. Helicopters scanned the area. But again, no bodies, no phones, no personal items. Just empty water and trees that wouldn't talk. By now, media had caught wind of the story. Family vanishes after daughter marries, elderly billionaire. The headlines screamed, Rachel Monroe missing or hiding. The internet did what it always does, theorized, judged, obsessed. Some called her a gold digger. Others said she was being held hostage. Conspiracy forums lit up with wild ideas, secret cults, organ trafficking, even alien abduction. But beneath the noise, one thing was clear: Rachel was missing, and her entire family had vanished. And then, another twist. A week after the search at Lake Hemsworth, police received an anonymous tip. The voice on the line was male, calm, precise. "If you want answers," he said, "check the fireplace at Howard Bellamy's estate." Click, the line went dead. Investigators didn't hesitate. They got a warrant and descended on the mansion like a storm. Howard wasn't there. But Rachel was. She answered the door in silk pajamas, with her hair pulled back and a half-empty wine glass in hand. She looked surprised, not scared, just confused. "Is something wrong?" she asked, blinking slowly. They told her about the call, about her family, about the growing concern. Rachel laughed, a light, almost too casual sound. "Oh my God, you think I did something to them?" She invited them in. The estate was spotless, immaculate, too perfect. But when they inspected the grand fireplace in the main hall, their blood ran cold. Inside, the ashes buried beneath logs and soot, they found a half-melted wedding band, and etched inside, barely legible, were the initials TM. Thomas Monroe. The officers exchanged looks. Rachel's face changed. The wine glass trembled. "I don't know how that got there," she whispered. But her hands were shaking. They collected the ring, sealed it in an evidence bag, and took Rachel in for questioning. No charges, not yet. But the silence around the Monroe family's ankh was finally cracking. Rachel was brought into the precinct just before midnight. Under the cold fluorescent lights of the interview room, she looked pale, nervous. She wore a navy hoodie and leggings, not designer, just simple and comfortable. Her wine glass confidence had evaporated. Detective Marla Quinn sat across from her, hands folded, tone steady. "We just need to understand," she said. "Where were your parents the last time you saw them?" Rachel hesitated. "I don't know. They stopped talking to me." Marla raised an eyebrow. "That's not what your friend Lily said." Silence. Rachel shifted in her seat. "Lily's confused. She doesn't know what's going on." Marla leaned forward. "Rachel, a wedding ring was found in your fireplace. It belonged to your father. How do you explain that?" Rachel's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her eyes welled up. Then came the tears. "I didn't do anything to them," she whispered. "I swear to God. I haven't seen them in weeks. Howard's the one who told me to stop talking to them. He said they were toxic, controlling, that they didn't want me to be happy." Her voice cracked. I just wanted to start over. The interrogation lasted 3 hours. Rachel maintained her innocence. No knowledge of her family's whereabouts. No clue how the ring got there. But there were gaps. Her timeline didn't add up. Her phone records showed calls made to her mother long after the wedding calls she claimed never happened. Her credit card was used to purchase heavy-duty garbage bags, gloves, and ammonia from a hardware store 2 days after her family was last seen. The clerk remembered her. She looked like she'd been crying, he told detectives. Kept her head down the whole time. The evidence wasn't enough to arrest her, but it was enough to make her a person of interest. Now the focus shifted to Howard. Howard Bellamy, the elusive billionaire groom, the man who hadn't been seen in public for over a decade and was suddenly gone again. His attorney claimed he was on a business retreat in Belize. But when police contacted the resort, they had no reservation under his name, no flights booked, no immigration records. Howard Bellamy had vanished. An official manhunt was launched. Interpol was contacted, Howard's passport was flagged, his financial accounts were monitored, but there was no activity. It was as if the man had simply ceased to exist. But what investigators found in his estate was far more disturbing. The mansion was searched top to bottom. In a locked basement room behind a false wall, they found what could only be described as a private archive. Private. Labeled boxes, photos, VHS tapes, journals, and names. Names of women. Angela, Meredith, Joelle, Cassie, Harper. Each name matched a previous wife of Howard Bellamy, all of whom had reportedly left the country or filed for divorce and disappeared soon after. Their personal belongings were inside those boxes. A passport, a bracelet, a wedding dress, a bottle of perfume. Then came the final box, Rachel. Inside, they found a Polaroid of her sleeping, dated 3 weeks before the wedding, hair spread across a silk pillow, unaware. The room fell silent. This wasn't just a marriage, Detective Quinn muttered. This was a pattern. It became clear Howard Bellamy had a history. And now Rachel wasn't just a suspect, she might have been his next victim. Or his accomplice. Theories flooded the department. Had Rachel realized too late what Howard was? Was she trying to cover for him, or had she turned on her family before Howard could? The pressure was mounting. And then, just when things couldn't get any stranger, a body was found. Buried in shallow earth behind an abandoned tool shed near Lake Hemsworth. Wrapped in plastic, decomposed beyond easy recognition. No ID, but a belt buckle engraved with the initials CM. Caleb Monroe, Rachel's little brother. DNA confirmed it. The cause of death. Blunt force trauma to the head. Estimated time of death. The same night the Monroe family vanished. The town erupted. Vigils were held. Candles lined the sidewalks of Mason Hollow. A mural was painted downtown justice for the Monroes. Rachel was reinterrogated. This time she didn't cry. She sat cold, detached, refused to answer. Her attorney instructed her to remain silent. But the silence was deafening. Then a final clue emerged. An anonymous email sent to the lead investigator. Subject line, "What about the shed?" Attached, a blurry photo of what looked like Howard dragging something wrapped in a tarp toward the back of the property. The timestamp was 2 days after the Monroe family vanished. The photo had no metadata, no GPS tag, but the angle suggested it was taken from inside the house. From someone watching. From Rachel. Or someone else. Before Rachel, there were 5. 5 young women, all vibrant, all beautiful, all married to Howard Bellamy, and all gone. The discovery of the boxes in Howard's hidden archive blew the case wide open. Each box was a portal into a life that had simply vanished. Passport stamps showed travel to countries these women had never actually entered. Letters supposedly written by them, mailed from exotic locations, were filled with generic phrases and no personal detail. Forgery, all of it. But here's what chilled investigators to the bone. Every woman disappeared within 6 months of marrying Howard. Angela the First, a waitress from New Orleans, married at 23. Last seen boarding a private yacht with Howard. Meredith, an art student from Chicago, married at 26. Told friends she was moving to Paris. She never arrived. Joelle, a single mother from Oregon. Cassie, a violinist. Harper, a yoga instructor. All of them had something in common. They had no close family, no one who could follow up file reports or fight back when they went silent. One missing woman might be a coincidence. That was a pattern. Detective Quinn reopened cold cases that had been quietly closed years before, and what she found was infuriating. Each time one of Howard's wives vanished, a legal document had surfaced: power of attorney, last will, or divorce papers granting Howard control over their assets. The signatures matched, but experts now concluded they were forged. This wasn't just disappearance, this was calculated erasure. "I don't think Rachel was ever meant to survive," Marla told her team. "She just outplayed him." But was that really true? One day, a woman named Cara Duvall walked into the police station. She was shaking pale and clutched a manila folder to her chest. She claimed she was Harper's cousin. "They said she moved to South America," Cara whispered. "But that wasn't true. She was scared. She told me if anything ever happened to her, I had to bring this to the police." Inside the folder were photos. Some of Harper bruised and crying. Others showed handwritten notes, lists of names, and finally a disturbing page that simply read, "He watches everything. There are cameras in the bedroom. He knows when I try to leave. Beneath that, I'm next, just like the others." Investigators were stunned. They brought in tech experts to sweep Howard's mansion. They found hidden cameras in every room, some inside air vents, others behind light switches, all feeding into a private server encrypted and remotely accessed. Howard had been watching. Not just Harper, not just Rachel, all of them. They also discovered a locked drawer in his upstairs office. Inside was a velvet jewelry box. In it, 5 wedding bands, each engraved with initials matching the previous wives. It was a trophy collection. Rachel, when confronted with these discoveries, went quiet. Then she said something that made the entire room go still. "He told me if I ever left, I'd end up just like Meredith." "Where's Meredith?" Marla asked, heart pounding. Rachel didn't blink. "He never said. He just smiled." At that point, prosecutors pushed for an arrest warrant. Rachel was charged with obstruction and considered a co-conspirator, but her attorneys fought back, saying she was a victim, manipulated, abused, and groomed from the start. The public was torn. Some saw her as a survivor. Others believed she was just like Howard, a predator in a prettier disguise. Then came the second body, found buried beneath a greenhouse on the edge of the estate. It was badly decomposed, but dental records confirmed the identity. Angela, the first wife. Her skull was fractured. She had likely died from blunt force trauma the same way Caleb had. That was the final straw. Howard Bellamy was now wanted for murder. But no one could find him. No bank activity, no travel logs, no sightings. And the closer police looked into his past, the more it became clear Howard Bellamy was not his real name. His birth name was Harlan Beach, and he'd changed identities twice before. One of those names was attached to an unsolved disappearance from the 1980s. The rabbit hole kept going. Rachel was placed under house arrest. She wore an ankle monitor, gave weekly statements, but public trust had eroded. Then she escaped. Rachel's escape wasn't dramatic. No midnight getaway, no stolen car, no chase. She simply removed the ankle monitor, left it in a gas station trash can, and vanished. Gone, like smoke. The news hit the town like a bomb. Rachel Monroe escapes custody. Is she running or hiding? Cameras camped outside the courthouse. Internet sleuths tracked every possible sighting. Reddit threads exploded with theories. Some said she'd reunited with Howard. Others insisted she was on the run from him. The FBI got involved? Her bank accounts were frozen, her passport flagged, airports and bus stations monitored, but there was no activity. It wasn't until 5 days later that a strange clue surfaced. A voicemail. Left on Lily's phone, Rachel's best friend. Timestamped at 3:14 a.m. Lily, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this. I should have listened, but I didn't know. He lied about everything. He made me think they hated me. My mom, my dad, even Caleb. A shaky breath. I think he's watching me. I don't know where I am. It's like a basement or a bunker. He's gone right now, but I think he'll be back soon. A pause, then hurriedly. If anything happens to me, tell them I tried. Tell them I didn't know. Click. The message cut off. The call traced back to a burner phone pinged briefly near a desolate stretch of road in Georgia. By the time authorities arrived, it was gone. But then came something even more disturbing. A man walking his dog outside a rest stop in Macon found a blood-stained scarf. DNA tests confirmed it belonged to Rachel. It wasn't enough to prove she was dead, but it painted a picture. Rachel wasn't on the run. She was being hunted and possibly held captive. Then, as if from nowhere, a flash drive was mailed to the local police station. No return address, no note, just a plain black USB. Inside were 12 video files. The footage was grainy, night vision, no audio. It showed various rooms inside what appeared to be a concrete structure, possibly underground. In one of the videos, Rachel is seen sitting on a mattress. Her wrists are bound, her face bruised. She stares blankly ahead. In another, someone unseen places a tray of food near the door. Rachel doesn't move. Another video shows her screaming, but there's no sound. She thrashes against the wall, then collapses. Each clip is time-stamped. The last one, dated 2 days before the voicemail to Lily. The FBI launched a search operation focused on underground properties, bomb shelters, and any facilities Howard might have owned under his aliases. It led them to an abandoned textile mill outside Savannah, purchased 18 years ago under the name Harland Beeson. Dogs caught a scent in a trapdoor beneath the factory floor. Below was a bunker. Empty, but filled with signs of recent activity. A mattress, zip ties, empty food containers, a wall smeared with blood, and carved into the concrete, one word. Sorry. Forensics confirmed it was Rachel's blood. Her prints were everywhere. But Rachel still missing. Howard still gone. And the public losing hope. Some now believed Rachel had died in that bunker. Others suspected she escaped, only to vanish once again. A few insisted she and Howard were playing an elaborate game, one final act before disappearing forever. But one thing was certain. Her last message didn't sound like someone running. It sounded like someone begging to be found. Just when investigators began to believe the trail had gone cold, everything changed. A woman was found wandering along the highway outside a rural Alabama truck stop, barefoot, disoriented, and covered in cuts. She gave a fake name at first, claiming she'd escaped an abusive boyfriend. But when a local officer asked for ID, she broke down crying. "I'm Rachel," she whispered. Rachel Monroe was alive. She was taken to the hospital under police guard. Her injuries were consistent with prolonged captivity bruises, malnourishment rope, burns on her wrists and ankles. She had small puncture marks on her arms, signs of sedation. But what stunned investigators most wasn't her survival. It was her confession, Because Rachel didn't deny the horrors of the past year, she explained them. And her version of the story flipped everything upside down. According to Rachel, the plan was never to kill anyone. She claimed Howard had manipulated her, gaslit her for months, isolating her from her family. He told her they hated her, that they would ruin the marriage, that they would cut her off. She believed him. But the tension grew after the wedding. Rachel said her parents kept calling, begging her to leave Howard. He became enraged, accused them of trying to destroy their love. One night he handed her a drink and calmly told her, "We can't let them ruin us." That night, Rachel said she woke up to screaming. She ran downstairs to find her father on the ground, her mother in shock, and Howard standing there holding a hammer. Blood on his hands. She screamed. Howard told her it was done, that they couldn't go back now, that she had to choose him or join them. Rachel said she froze. Then she helped him. Not because she wanted to, but because she didn't see another way out. She admitted to buying cleaning supplies, burning evidence, lying to the police. "But I didn't kill them," she insisted. "I swear, I never hurt anyone." She said Howard kept her locked up for weeks afterward, drugged her, threatened to make her disappear like the others if she didn't play along. When she tried to leave after Caleb's body was buried, he beat her unconscious. That voicemail to Lily, she'd crawled to the burner phone when Howard was gone for supplies. She thought she had more time. She didn't. He moved her to the bunker near Savannah soon after, kept her there, watched her through hidden cameras, forced her to write letters claiming she was fine. It wasn't until a storm knocked out the power that she managed to escape, climbed out a maintenance tunnel, walked for miles. And now she was ready to testify. The DA offered her a deal immunity in exchange for full cooperation. The public erupted again. Was she a victim or a murderer with a convenient sob story? Regardless, the case took a dramatic new turn. Rachel gave investigators the names of properties Howard had mentioned: vacation homes, fake identities, bank accounts. And then, one name that no one expected. Agent Matthew Klein, an FBI agent. Rachel said Howard had mentioned him once, our friend in the bureau. At first she thought it was paranoia, but the more she listened, the more she suspected something darker. Internal Affairs launched a quiet probe, and what they uncovered was damning. Klein had accessed sealed records, tipped someone off before a search warrant was executed, and had a wire transfer of $500,000 deposited into an offshore account 3 days before Rachel's escape. He was arrested on charges of obstruction conspiracy and aiding a fugitive. When questioned, Klein folded. He said he'd met Howard years ago at a donor gala. Howard had offered help in exchange for favors. At first, it was just information, but soon it became protection. And the final twist: Klein gave them a location. A cabin. Deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains. A joint task force was deployed. They surrounded the cabin at dawn, guns raised, silence thick as smoke. Then movement. A man stepped outside. Unarmed, gray-bearded, thinner than the old photographs, but unmistakably Howard Bellamy. He didn't run, didn't fight. He just said, "Took you long enough." Inside the cabin, they found journals, video recordings, and something even more shocking. Locks of hair from every woman he'd ever married. Each labeled, each sealed in a glass vial. Trophies. Howard was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder, kidnapping, and obstruction. His trial would be one of the most sensational in American legal history. Rachel testified over 3 days. She cried, she shook, she screamed. And when asked what she would say to her family if they were still alive, she whispered, "I'm sorry I didn't leave sooner." Howard never spoke during trial, never showed remorse. He was found guilty on all counts, sentenced to life in a prison without parole. And as the gavel fell, the room erupted in tears. But justice, as always, came too late. The trial of Howard Bellamy, or Harlan Beach, as the court records would state, became a national obsession. News outlets dubbed him the Black Widow Groom. Podcasts covered every court hearing. Live streams of Rachel's testimony drew millions of views, and everywhere, opinions clashed. Was Rachel a cunning survivor, or an accomplice who turned on her partner when things got too hot? The prosecution laid out their case with brutal precision. They showed the trophies, the videos, the forged documents, the bodies. They called forensic psychologists who testified that Howard showed signs of narcissistic psychopathy, a man who sought control, not just love. Rachel's testimony was the centerpiece. She described Howard's charm, his isolation tactics, the moment she realized she was trapped, and the violence that followed. "I didn't fall in love," she said on the stand, voice cracking. "I fell into a trap." She didn't deny her actions. She admitted to helping cover up the crime, to lying to police, to burning evidence. But she also described waking up in the bunker with no sunlight for weeks, of counting hours by the sound of water dripping from pipes, of wondering if she'd die without anyone ever knowing where she was. Her words tore through the courtroom. And yet, not everyone believed her. Online forums debated her sincerity. Some called her the perfect manipulator. Others said the system had failed her, punishing someone groomed from the age of 24 by a killer with millions and powerful connections. In the end, Rachel was not charged with murder. Her plea deal was honored. But she was sentenced to 2 years under supervised psychiatric care and 10 years of probation for obstruction and evidence tampering. Many found the punishment light. Others believed it was merciful, perhaps even too little too late. Howard Bellamy received 5 consecutive life sentences, no parole, no appeals. He died of a heart attack behind bars 2 years later, alone. No visitors, no funeral. His estate, once worth over $40 million, was auctioned off. The proceeds were split among the families of the victims, including Rachel's surviving relatives. Rachel changed her name, moved out of state. She was last seen attending group therapy for trauma survivors. She never gave another interview. But she did leave behind a journal recovered by authorities during the investigation. On the final page, written in shaky ink, was this: "I kept waiting for someone to save me, but sometimes no one comes, so you either survive or you disappear." Years have passed. But the shadows of this case still linger in headlines in true crime forums and in the hearts of those who followed it from the start. Rachel Monroe vanished from public view. Some say she moved to Oregon. Others claim she changed her name again and works quietly at a bookstore somewhere in Maine. No one knows for sure. Her family, Thomas, Linda, and Caleb, never received proper funerals, only symbolic memorials. To this day, their remains, aside from Caleb's, have never been found. And that is where the questions begin. Where are the bodies? What happened in those final moments? How many other victims were there? Could Howard have had help all along? Was Rachel truly the last, or just the last we know about? Because even with the convictions, the arrests, and the supposed closure, there is still a space where the truth doesn't fully reach. A darkness that no trial can illuminate, and a pain that no verdict can erase. In interviews, retired detective Marla Quinn once said, "Justice feels heavy in this one. We got the monster, but I'm not sure we saved the girl." And perhaps she was right. Because not all survivors heal, not all victims look like victims, and not all stories end with clarity. But if this case has taught us anything, it's this: evil rarely looks like a monster. Sometimes it wears a tuxedo, smiles gently, and calls itself love. So the next time someone disappears, the next time a girl says she's scared, the next time a story doesn't add up. We must listen, we must ask questions, we must not look away. Because silence is where shadows grow. Thank you for watching. If you found this case as haunting as we did, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Rachel was a victim or something more? Let us know what you think. And until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and never stop asking, why?